All right, and we're live with a very special Haute lawyer presentation. Super lawyer Robert Zarco, thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you, April. Looking forward to having another nice conversation.
Always. So as viewers are tuning in, what has your biggest takeaway been from this period of the last 6 months?
My biggest takeaway with regard to the onslaught of COVID and the imposition of these governmental orders and mandates on our personal lives, on our business communities and our businesses is that the outcome of how we deal with these issues has everything to do with the attitude in which we approach and address the problems that are confronting us on a daily basis. If you have a doomsday victim type attitude towards a problem and you dwell on the problem as opposed to address it in a way that you can look at this as an opportunity to in fact grow, evolve, and develop into something new, in other words, in essence, recreate yourself to address the current environment that we're living in, I think that a lot of wonderful things will come out as a result of what we have learned during these last 6 or 7 months.
How has your firm specifically addressed things?
Our firm has had a very positive outlook on it. I am, as the leader of the firm, the catalyst that drives this engine, and I'm known for being extremely optimistic about life, about issues, about business. And I have addressed this matter in a way where I convey to my clients that we are here for them, that we are going to be their ally to provide them with advice on a daily basis, which would give them the tools and vehicles within which they can address the problems in their business so as to prosper and survive the situation.
Thank you so much, Zarco. We're going to go ahead and begin. I'm going to formally introduce you. Robert Zarco, founder of the law firm Zarco, Einhorn, Salkowski, and Brito, has been at the forefront of protecting the legal rights and interests of clients in the USA and overseas for over 30 years. Handling complex franchise, commercial, and business legal matters and trials in federal and state courts, as well as arbitration and mediation. As a very active trial lawyer in franchise, hospitality, dealership, distributorship, trademark, commercial, and real estate disputes, Zarco is frequently awarded distinctions, including Lawyer of the Year in 2020 for franchise law by Best Lawyers of America, Top Deal Makers of the Year for real estate land by Daily Business Review, Legal Eagle by Franchise Times, and South Florida's Top Lawyers by the Miami Herald. The firm is repeatedly listed in U.S. News and World Report amongst best law firms by Best Lawyers of America, in addition to being a tremendous partner ambassador of the Haute Lawyer Program here at Haute Living, in addition to being a national commentator on numerous media outlets for the latest in legal news. Zarco, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, April. I'm humbled by that introduction, but thank you so much. I look forward to our conversation this afternoon.
Likewise. How are franchises holding up right now in the light of COVID-19 and government shutdowns in 2020?
It depends on the franchise or small business. Some are doing extremely well, surprisingly. Some are doing business as usual. Others are in deep trouble. It all depends on the industry you're in. It depends, most importantly, on the attitude of the business owner operator and how he is approaching this problem and confronting it. There are different kinds of businesses that are faring differently. For instance, you have, hotels on the one hand have had a very, very difficult time. Naturally, people have not been traveling, so the travel industry has been hurt, which has impacted hotels. which in turn has impacted restaurants. And as a result, you've seen a dramatic reduction in hotel occupancy rates, what would typically be anywhere from 70 to 95% on typical hotels of well-known name brands. We have experienced where a lot of our clients are down to 4%, 7%, 10%. I mean, there's no way for a business like that to survive. You then have restaurants. It depends on if they're sit-in, dine-in restaurants versus if there's restaurants that are combos, indoor, outdoor seating, or other restaurants that are primarily outdoor. Or then you have some of these fast food, quick service restaurants where there's a lot of takeout, drive-through facilities, as well as in-store dining. The government mandates precluding in-store dining and in-store visits per se to many of these facilities has been crippling to a lot of businesses. When 70-80% of your business comes from the in-dining facility as opposed from sitting outdoors, outdoor dining, something like COVID could really have a major impact. So what's happened is that a lot of these restaurant owners have transcended, and evolved their business into a different kind of food distribution program, food distribution channels, such as for those that did not have takeout, they're now increasing their takeout services. They have modified their kitchen, modified their menu to make sure that in fact they're able to provide good takeout. Some that never did delivery before are now undertaking delivery, whether through their own delivery programs or through delivery using Uber Eats or other kind of delivery services. You have them coming in and picking up, where they prepare their food and for pickup. But again, a lot of these menus are very limited in order to promote efficiency and cut costs. It is not all bad that for some restaurants, the dine-in business has gone down substantially. And that is because there's a tremendous amount of saving on labor. A lot of labor is cut back when you don't have to tend to the customers in the restaurant. There's a lot less use of the facilities, the furniture, which in turn has less maintenance and repair associated with it. So there's a lot of cost savings. A lot of businesses that we represent, I have found have transferred sales from what was previously in-store dining to serving the same product through the other alternative distribution channels, such as the delivery, the pickup, and things of that sort, or the drive-through. The most important thing, which I have found, is that a lot of these businesses that are surviving are maintaining their level of quality of the product they are selling, and they are maintaining their level of service to the customer. Some are enhancing that service, and customers are impacting and being impacted by that continued level of service and quality of food. Other restaurants feel that, you know what, we have to cut costs, we have to reduce portions, we have to change the quality of our meat, the quality of our, vegetables. Huge mistake, because once you do that, you are altering the quality of the brand goodwill value. On hotels, what a lot of them have done is taken advantage of this time to do some remodeling, to do some upgrading. Any delayed repair and maintenance programs, are being enhanced. And with regard to businesses such as, pizza delivery businesses, they're booming because people don't want to go out anywhere. And for those that don't want to continue to cook at home, they order the pizza. It comes, into the home, and that business has done extremely well. If you're in the service business, if you're in the home cleaning business, you've hit a bonanza. Everybody now is so paranoid about things being clean and not clean that there's the cleaning business, the sanitation business, the disinfectant business, if you may, sanitation business of the home, of the businesses, has grown substantially during the last 6 months. So the reality is that it depends on which industry you're in. Some, like I have said earlier, some are doing really well, some have stayed the same, and some have suffered and continue to suffer. Again, the most important aspect of whether you are going to be successful or not is the attitude of the management team, attitude of the leaders of the management team, to make sure that they have a positive, contributive attitude, and that attitude of positivity is infectious with regard to the rest of the team.
Thank you, Zarco. What does this mean right now for someone that's opening up a franchise?
For someone who's opening up a franchise now, there are a lot of considerations. A lot of considerations based on the fact that typically franchises are long-term commitments, long-term contracts. So now the language in the contract becomes much more important. Because they are 5-year, 10-year, 20-year deals, you need to plan that a situation like this, whether it be a pandemic, whether it be a massive hurricane, whether it be a war, God forbid, or anything that would impact the ability for your business to continue, almost needs to be planned into your business model. You need to focus very carefully on the force majeure clause, or the acts of God clause, as people call it, in the contract, in terms of what will happen if one of these unforeseen events, which now the word unforeseen, I think, is no longer applicable. But based on what happened with COVID, anything should be foreseeable now. The apocalypse should almost be foreseeable. You never know what could happen, all right? So as a result of that, you have to make sure that your agreements have very solid, well-written clauses, force majeure clauses, that allow you to either stop the business, in other words, abate the business, abate the obligations, as opposed to deferral. There's a big difference between an abatement of an obligation and a deferral of that obligation, because if it's deferred, you're going to have to pay it back later. And if the business is limping along or being crippled as a result of a COVID type of scenario or other government mandated rule or regulation, a deferral is only going to add an anchor on the back of a business that's already in great financial despair. So therefore, the language in the contracts is crucial. And typically, over 85 to 90% of franchisees are known to never read their franchise agreements. All they read is how much is the rent, what's the location, what are the fees, how much is it going to cost, or what's the name of the brand. That's all they care about. What they're not understanding is many franchisees that I've dealt with now and am dealing with now are like, wow, I didn't realize my contract didn't give me that kind of protection. Or, wow, thank God my contract has that language. But they had no clue. It was luck of the draw as to what the language has in the contract. Secondly, you have to make sure that your negotiations with the landlords are such that you have what we call exit windows, where you pay rent until such time as the business is rendered to be commercially impracticable as a result of some force majeure, or a situation where if a business is doing, let's say, $1 million in sales a year or $500,000 in sales a year, and as a result of the onslaught of a pandemic like this or any other unforeseen circumstance which causes your sales to automatically go down by 50%, even if it includes a Department of Transportation imposition of a highway right in front of your business, where the heavy construction impedes the customers from coming to your business, that in situations like that, which may be as great or even greater than how COVID has impacted people, that there be a provision in the contract that says if my business goes down 50% as a result of ABC events, then my rent goes down 50%. Something that ties your rent. In other words, we call it percentage rent. But a lot of contracts that have percentage rent have baselines. And the baselines can be problematic. So if you have a 10% percentage rent and there's a baseline of, say, $100,000 on $1 million business, that's 10%. But what happens if the baseline is 100,000 and the business goes from $1 million in sales to 500,000? Now your baseline rent is in essence 20% rent, and businesses can't survive on that. So you have to look at a lot of the language in the contract, and you also have to look at the relationship that you have with the person you're getting into contract with. If it's a franchisor-franchisee relationship, you have to evaluate that relationship. And if you're not a franchisee of that business, then you need to investigate and inquire from other people in terms of, hey, listen, you know what? How long have you been a franchisee? Well, I've been around 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years. How did they treat you during the whole COVID scenario? How did you do? Oh, our sales went down dramatically. What was the franchisor's attitude? What was their approach? Did they defer obligations? Did they do royalty reductions? Did they delay the requirement of re-imaging or improving or remodeling the business? Things like that is what you have to look into. We believe that because of the unfortunate demise of a lot of businesses, there are going to be lots of opportunities out there where you're going to have empty locations that previously had restaurants in them. You're going to have a lot of open space available to be developed and to be utilized, building off of or taking advantage of a prior tenant's unfortunate demise. But again, you have to be careful. You have to be careful as to why that location failed and not other location. You need to be properly advised. You have to have a very good financial, business, and legal advisor on hand before you launch into business. And I think that that's something that I have noticed over the last 35 years. The people that spend more time preparing for a new business development, that do more of their homework, cross their I's and cross their T's, have a much higher chance of success than those that get enamored with, I'm going to go into business myself, and I'm going to go into business of, buying or selling a product that I love so much, without looking behind as to the business aspects of it, the legal consequences that arise from the business aspects. Because a lot of people don't understand that every time you make a business decision, there is a corresponding legal consequence. And when you make a legal decision, there is a corresponding business consequence, and they go hand in hand. So people need to go in eyes wide open, make sure you get all the assistance that is necessary to minimize your chance of failing and maximize your chance of being successful.
So let's talk about that along those lines. What are you seeing right now in terms of litigation between franchisees and franchisors in light of what's going on?
There is an increase in litigation right now, a substantial increase in litigation. Our business has increased dramatically during the last 6-7 months. I mean, we're always busy, having among the largest franchise practice in the world, but we're seeing a substantial uptick. And the uptick comes from the fact that when franchisees are not doing well in their business, when the franchisee feels the business model is not working, or they're simply not generating a sufficient amount of sales, or the sales are not translating into an appropriate level of profitability, the franchisees start looking more carefully at the business itself. And they start looking at the relationship between the franchisee and the franchisor. They start looking at what programs, if any, the franchisor is implementing now in the business concept, which new programs could be ridden with all kinds or riddled with all kinds of fees, extra fees and extra costs. And the last thing a franchisee needs now is that franchisees that believe that the franchisor was taking advantage of the franchisees or had done things that were inappropriate are now a lot less tolerant than before. Sometimes you have franchisors that have the franchisor-franchisee relationship, but in addition also have the franchisor-landlord relationship where the franchisor is actually a tenant of another owner of the real estate and then subleases that space to the franchisee. So the franchisor becomes the sub-landlord and then the franchisee becomes the subtenant. That complicates things because the franchisor, if the franchisee is not paying rent, franchisor is losing money, not only on the fact that the franchisee is probably not paying royalties, but the fact that the franchisee is also not paying rent. So the franchisor gets a double barrel whammy from that kind of relationship. And then the franchisor is getting pressure from the banks with regard to the franchisor-franchisee relationship financing, and then also getting pressure from the landlord because of the fact that the landlord owns the property and has its own mortgage, and the burden trickles down to who's going to pay the rent. So you have the bank that loaned the money to the owner of the property who wants the money. The owner who still has that mortgage needs the tenant, which is the franchisor, to pay the rent, but the tenant is not paying because its subtenant, the franchisee, has been shut down and is unable to pay royalty and rent. That is the perfect recipe for a very big, bad lawsuit. Now, there are a lot of franchisors that have been very, very empathetic, and many have given, some have given royalty abatements, very rare. Others have given financial assistance. Others have given very low interest loans to try to keep the franchisees, bolstered up financially, which is to the benefit of the franchise system as a whole. But most are giving deferments on obligations, which, as I stated earlier, deferments are where the franchisee still needs to pay that royalty or those other fees, but should not be, but does not have to pay them now. Will have to pay them later. One of the things that's important also to look at, and I skipped over this on the issue of what franchisees need to look into when they're going to get into the relationship, is whether or not they are required to sign personal guarantees. Personal guarantees, ladies and gentlemen, are a very important element of protecting your financial future. Just because you are unsuccessful in a particular business you're in due to circumstances beyond your control, for instance, where you have a COVID scenario or a government mandated closure and your business shuts down and you have 17 years left on franchise royalties and 17 years left on a lease that you're paying $15,000 a month. $15,000 a month is $180,000 a year, okay, times 17 years. You're looking at about, my God, $2.5 million, if not more, about $2.5 million that you have to pay just on rent. And then on the royalties, it could be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year times, 17 years, you're looking at about $1.2 million. So now you lost this business and you had some money saved in the bank, you had about $1 million, let's say 500,000, and now you're hit with a judgment for $3.5 million. Could be very devastating. So if you're going to be required to sign a personal guarantee, try to make sure there's a provision where the personal guarantee burns off. That means that, for instance, if the franchise or the landlord, if the landlord goes ahead and gives you money to do what's called TI, tenant improvement, your personal guarantee should burn off or stop after you have paid enough rent to pay back the landlord for the tenant improvement money they have put in the business. That's a good way of protecting yourself and protecting the landlord as well. But landlords who are not going to be reasonable in terms of terms in leases and commercial leases going forward are going to face a really tough time getting adequate and good tenants, because tenants are going to become much more sophisticated now. And because of what's happened, they're going to be looking for more favorable terms just in case.
Have you seen any landmark cases so far in 2020 from this?
You know, in terms of landmark cases,
That'll set a precedent forward. What have you seen so far?
if you think about it, these cases that set precedent are cases that are typically in litigation for there to be a legal ruling that has long-lasting effect, and those cases usually take a year or 2 years. COVID is something that occurred 6 months ago, and lawsuits didn't start getting filed till about 2-3 months ago. On the business interruption side, there are some decisions that have been coming out, but they are in pretty much not, I'm not gonna say all over the board, but the ones that deal with the most important elements of business interruption, which are whether there's physical damage or not, and whether or not there's coverage or not, turn on two important principles. One, on the government mandate and the closure, and together with the COVID, if there is a COVID exclusion, a virus exclusion, or a pandemic exclusion, then there's a big hurdle. In a recent case where the court found that COVID was physical damage, that was a good ruling where a court said, we consider COVID causes physical damage, which a lot of, there's other cases in other states that say, no, COVID is not physical damage because it was contemplated that physical damage is a physical destruction to a wall, a roof, damage from water, and things of that sort. The array of cases that have to be analyzed under the particular language of the particular policy is crucial. So you have a case recently that said, yes, COVID is a physical damage. It gets you through the hurdle, but the reason that case got you through the hurdle was because in that case, there was no pandemic or virus exclusion. With regard to cases that are having virus exclusions, so far, some of the decisions are coming out that the virus exclusion, in fact, is enforceable, and that therefore the courts are not going to be rewriting contracts. In some instances, you're getting lawyers that are trying to get the court to rewrite contracts. To the extent that a trial court would do that, it's going to be very difficult for an appellate court to allow that. And to think that the government's going to come in and impose on the insurance companies that are private companies, that they're going to have to pay everyone who has an insurance policy for business interruption, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all. The maximum that I believe will ever happen is that the government may set up a fund to be able to bankroll, if you may, a massive amount of claims that may have to be paid at some point in the future on business interruption. But that's only going to be if in fact it becomes an industry-wide problem. But to think that the government's going to come in and write you a check because you had a problem with business interruption is not going to happen, because the reality is that the stimulus programs that are being offered are, in essence, business interruption policies.
Right.
Because the PPP money is money that's being paid to help you pay for employees, and it's to help you pay for rent and some other, expenses. And before it was that 80% had to be employees and 20% had to be the rest. Now it's been softened to be 60% employees and 40% other expenses, because the government's come to realize that there are many other expenses that need to be paid. And in fact, you can operate the business with less than 80% of the people, say 60% of the people, because there's less demand because you're at 50% capacity of operation. And you need that extra money to help pay for the fixed costs, whether it be the rent, the insurance, the electricity, all those other expenses that are part of the business. So the government, in fact, has been acting as a business interruption insurer through these stimulus programs. But at some point, we're all going to have to pay the piper on these stimulus packages, because when you're up to $3-4 trillion and there's contemplation of another $1 trillion, it's great. But in my view, it is falsely upholding the financial base of our economy.
Zarco, you've gone through some of the factors that differentiate franchises that are able to pull through right now and the ones that are struggling. Looking ahead to the franchise business as a whole, do you see more or less franchisees coming in?
It depends on if you are a franchisee that's in a business that has a development schedule, which means an agreement between you and the franchisor that obligates you to continue to build X number of stores within a particular given period of time. Then at that point, I do believe that you're going to continue to see growth from those franchisees. On others, I think that a lot of people right now are wary and very concerned about opening new businesses, because why would anyone want to open up a restaurant when it can only be open for 25% capacity, or it can only be open for 50% capacity? You've got to have a great vision and set up the economics of the deal now in a way that it can be profitable at this time with 50% capacity, where the landlord understands that if you worked out a rent of $30,000 a month or $20,000 a month, for the next 6 months, we're going to make it $15,000 or $10,000, or we're going to get free rent for a particular period of time to try to weather this. But if for some reason this continues for a longer period, your contract provision needs to be able to address that. Now, there are a lot of benefits to being in a franchise business. Brand value, the goodwill value of the brand is going to be a huge impetus for people deciding that they're going to go into business. How can I reduce the risk associated with my investment? And the best way to do that is by getting into a business that's already well known, that the brand is well known, that the system is well known, and somebody has already invented the mousetrap that has been time tested. If you start launching into a whole new business, unless you believe that that's a business that's going to be tailored to the new way of doing business in the future, where now, companies have evolved because of the COVID, they have had to reinvent themselves. They've become a lot more technologically dependent. Many businesses have continued to provide services, but virtually, whether you have, exercise classes where you had a trainer coming to your home, now he's going to get on the screen and do it through Zoom. There's a lot of that going on. People have started realizing, oh my gosh, I can reach out to the masses. Why am I going to train 12 people in my class in my little location here on the corner of Main and Main, when I can, where everybody loves the way I train and my personality and my energy? Why can't I put that on Zoom and train 1,000 people or train 3,000 people? So some people are becoming internet or Zoom sensations as a result, but that's because they have the proper attitude, that positive attitude that I was discussing earlier, which is the attitude that I impose on my employees here in my law firm. And that is, we have to think outside the box. We have to evolve. We have to see how we can better serve our clients. Us lawyers, typically our hearings are in person. Now they are by Zoom. Well, for instance, I have a big hearing in Tennessee tomorrow afternoon. Well, I was going to fly out tonight, and then get there and then work in the hotel room, go to the hearing for an hour and a half, and then fly back. That was going to take a day and a half. Well, now as a result of Zoom, I'm going to handle the hearing from my desk. And all the time I would be spending traveling, either my client will benefit because of additional preparation, or some other client will be able to have his hearing, in his case, faster, earlier than they would ordinarily have to do. Same thing with depositions and other elements of the business. Well, you have that in our business world, where you are going to now consider to get into a business that either has evolved already or is evolving in a way that you can anticipate that these unforeseen events, which are now foreseeable, are going to occur. And what has that business model, what has that company, or what has that industry done to be able to address, attack, and meet the challenges that have been brought to it as a result of something like COVID?
Thank you, Zarco. In your vast experience, what makes a successful franchise, and where do you foresee the franchise model going from here?
You know, there's an old adage that a lot of people say, you can get into a wonderful business with bad people, and it's a bad business.
Yeah.
You can get into a not so great business with wonderful people, and it turns out to be a wonderful experience and a wonderful business. When you pepper the quality of the relationship between you as a business person and the person who you're doing business with, in the world of franchising, if you are in a relationship where the franchisor respects the franchisee and the franchisee respects the franchisor, that enhanced personal relationship between franchisor and franchisee will go a great way. And in fact, I think is the most significant element of making the business successful. Because even if something goes bad, the franchisor may be empathetic and sympathetic and understanding with regard to what it is that the franchisee needs and is experiencing and what it'll take to get them out of the problem. And the franchisor will put their own skin into that relationship to make sure the business does not falter. You have to look at the business model, analyze the business model to determine whether or not the rate of return on investment is one that you can live with. Is it, typically a good franchise business will return anywhere from 12% to 18% of the gross revenues as profits. Anything above that is wonderful. Anything below that is not a great thing. But what's important is you have to factor in other elements that people don't think of. For instance, if you buy yourself a restaurant franchise of any particular brand, and you do your numbers and you're coming up with a 15% return on your money, and you say, you know what, 15% is 5 times what I'm going to get in the bank. I'll get in the bank 2%, 3% if I go through some marketing fund. Not marketing fund, if I get some kind of a money market fund is what I meant. Something where you're going to get a conservative return, 2%, 3%. But now you can get 15% by opening up this business. That's great. Except, did you factor into your business model and your economics that the franchisor, based on the language in the franchise agreement, has not provided you with an exclusive territory? And by not having provided you with an exclusive territory, the franchisor is going to take the position that they can place a competing unit at any location that they wish, even if it's in close proximity to you. And then they have a provision in the contract that says they have the right to do that pursuant to what's called the reservation of rights clause. And in so doing, they are not responsible for whatever impact that new location will have on your profits, on your success, on your income, or anything like that. So now all of a sudden they put a location close by and your business drops 10%. Your business drops 20%. I've seen businesses drop 40%. Why? You can say, but why would it drop 40% when the other company is the same as mine? Because you see, your business has been there for 10 years and you're providing that same product, but your furniture's tired, your lights are dim, your parking lot is ugly, the landscape isn't pretty, and your bathrooms are filthy. And now with COVID, the new restaurant is set up to be more properly socially distanced. There's much more care on sanitation. The presentation gives you an ability to believe that you're going to be better taken care of. The bathrooms are, immaculate. Guess what? It's not going to be 10 or 20%. It's going to be 40 or 50%, because not only are they going to get the customers from their market, but they're going to actually get a transfer of customers from your store that are going to go to theirs, because it's only going to be 2 or 3 blocks away, or 2 or 3 miles away.
Zarco, with COVID specifically, what do people need to make sure? I mean, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but what do people need to make sure that they're covered with in putting together agreements?
In order to try to avoid the repeat of the financial disaster that a lot of people have experienced as a result of the onslaught of COVID, I would like to focus on the following terms and things that people really need to factor in. 1, how long is the commitment for? How long is your contractual obligation? Is there an exit window in the contract or in the relationship that if performance metrics are not met due to no fault of yours, meaning something that is a complete force majeure, that you have the ability, you will have the ability to get out, or you will have the ability to modify your obligations under the agreement. So the term of the contract, exit windows, personal guarantees. Personal guarantees should be avoided as much as possible. I recognize that some people may not do business with you if you don't provide a personal guarantee. But the reality is that if a lot of people start deciding they're not going to sign personal guarantees, commercial landlords have a choice. Do they require people to sign personal guarantees and they don't rent the place and it stays empty? Or do they have no choice because they're also suffering because they're not getting a lot of tenants to run into rent commercial places, to say, you know what, I know they're not going to sign a personal guarantee, but I trust this business will be successful, and they'll allow you to go in there to operate without a personal guarantee. And that has a lot to do with the strength of the brand. Something else that you need to do is you need to assure yourself that you're going to have a supply of labor. Now, that may sound a little silly. What do you mean a supply of labor? There's people who want to work. Oh, no. We know very well. All you have to do is read the newspaper and look around and look at everybody who's deciding that on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where everybody should be at work, there's a bunch of people marching for all kinds of wonderful reasons. And they're marching and marching, and nobody's got a job. And they don't have a job because the government is paying them $600 a week plus another $250 or whatever it is that's coming from unemployment. And next thing you know, people are making $600, $800, $900 a week without having to work. So what are we going to do? Can't go to the beach every day. You're going to get a sunburn and get skin cancer. Let's go form a parade. Let's go form a parade. And then, wait a second, am I going to go work at the restaurant I used to work before, making the equivalent of $10, $12, $15 an hour times 40 hours, $600 a week? And I'm going to be serving and up and down and carrying food and washing dishes and doing whatever I'm doing? Or I can sit home and have Uncle Sam take care of me. So as a result of the current stimulus packages and the environment that we find ourselves in, securing yourself a strong labor pool of people that have a wonderful working attitude, that want to work and are not ready to be relying on the government. Okay, those are the people that today are very hard to find. I own a restaurant. I know what it's like. We've had a lot of our employees that did not come back because they would tell us, I can't justify going back to work with you, even though we love you. You're a great owner and a great boss, but working in this restaurant, I make less than sitting home doing nothing. And in fact, if I can sit home and do nothing but work on the side on a cash business, the government won't know that I'm working. So now I'm not working on your business, which is all good money that has to be, paid taxable and contributed to all our financial obligations. Or I get the free government money, and then I work on the side some little business that pays me cash. Now I'm making a bonanza, and I have the afternoon at 3 o'clock on a beautiful day and go protest, because that's what I want to do. So when you have all of those forces working together, if you don't secure a labor pool, you're in trouble. So now what's happening in a lot of businesses that I go to now patron and visit, I see that a lot of their good employees are not back. And there are new employees who don't know the business and they don't know the product. So now they're providing bad service and they don't know how to sell the product. And the chef is a new one, or the people, let's say the chef came back, but the cooks are different, the line cooks. So the food's not coming out the same. And then the quality of the product is going down because they want to save money because customers aren't coming. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So you have to take into account all of these elements. You have to make sure that when you get into a business, you consider, should I get into a business that has a very high initiation fee? In other words, my initial investment is substantial. I have to build a big building. I have to have a freestanding location. I have to put a lot of money in the physical capital, in the physical facility. And then what? I can't tell you how many clients I have that opened businesses in January and February of 2020. They wanted to start the new year, 2020. We're going to start, we're no longer in the teens, 2019, 2018. We're 2020. We're starting a new decade. So there was a move for people to start new businesses. If you look at the car models, new car models came out in 2020. 2020 was a big year. So a lot of new businesses started, and then boom, 60 days, 90 days, people get cut off the knees because of the imposition of the government mandates arising from the onslaught of COVID. So, you never know. So what you have to do is assess your risk tolerance, and assess, if I put all of this money into this kind of business, what happens if the unexpected occurs? I'm going to be held, holding the hot potato, which is a big building that I borrowed $2 million or more to build. Imagine hoteliers have built new hotels and opened up in January or February or last October or November. And all of a sudden they're starting to get new occupancy. And then boom, it crashes. I mean, the franchisor is not going to be the guarantor of your success. It's not the franchisor's fault that there was a COVID, and it's not the franchisor's fault that there was a government mandate. It may be the franchisor's fault into how it deals with the franchisees under those conditions and what it can or cannot do, what's good faith, what's not good faith. How do they react, deal with, and respect a force majeure provision? How do they interpret it? And do they interpret it in a way that hurts the franchisor, but they don't accept that obligation and responsibility? Because they know that the franchisee is so financially distraught that they can't even hire a lawyer to go sue. Thank God we do our cases primarily on contingency fee arrangements. So we're the key to the courthouse. We allow the franchisees and the small business people that cannot afford, a high-powered law firm like ours that charges on an hourly basis. We allow them through our creative fee structures to be able to fight these battles, but a lot of people don't. So the franchisors are banking on some of these small businesses that they know technically they should have an obligation to, that they will not help them because they hope that they don't find a guy like me out there that handles these big cases on primarily a contingency fee basis. They're typically hybrids, but it's a lot less than if you had to pay my full hourly rate. So there's a lot of factors that have to be considered. We go back to the one of the statements I said early on, today in our current environment, with the risks, with the exposures, with what we have learned, has created a tremendous amount of vulnerability in the small business world. You better be properly advised with a business advisor, a financial advisor, and a lawyer who understands that industry, that business relationship. Otherwise, your chances of failure go up dramatically and your risk is not minimized.
Zarco, what's the number one creed that you live by personally and the number one rule that you preach to your clients, which you've already touched on there?
Always do the right thing is my number one creed. Always do the right thing. When I do the right thing, sometimes it may not necessarily end up having been right, but my intention was doing the right thing. So I have peace of mind. To me, peace of mind is what gives me my greatest sense of power and my greatest sense of success. I measure that through my mental tranquility. I have complete mental tranquility. No matter how big my cases are, I'm very focused and I deal with them, very methodically. You can say, yeah, but this case is the size of a chicken, so one gobble and you've swallowed the whole thing. But what happens when you get an elephant case, which we get a lot of these big, 50 million, 100 million, $200 million cases? What do? I say, I look at the elephant like a lot of little chickens, and I just eat one toe at a time, methodically, and you approach it. So it has to do with do the right thing, be fair to your client, be reasonable in your negotiations with your opponent, understanding that you ultimately will serve your client better by not being greedy, because when you're greedy, you don't get a result early on, and it causes litigations to drag on, which makes it even more expensive for the client and more expensive to the franchisor or the defendant, because I always try to let the opponent understand that there's going to be a very expensive litigation for them because they get paid by the hour. Their client pays by the hour. It's going to be a very expensive litigation. Please take the money you would have paid your lawyers and throw it into the pot to try to resolve the problem now. It's going to cost you less to resolve it now than resolve it later. So I try to, to do that. And I also, personally, I work really hard, but I play hard too. I know how to live. I enjoy living. I enjoy my life. Even during COVID, I had a very positive view towards COVID. Maybe you may call it a rationalization, but rather than mope and woe be me attitude, I used that time to spend a lot more time with my family, with my 92-year-old mother that lives with me in the house. That I care for, that I spend much more time with my children. I did not have to travel as much for business, so therefore spend more time at the office, more time with my employees, more time doing things that I would not have done before. I'm a major, boater, yachtsman. I am an avid outdoors person. I did a lot more of that. And frankly, I can honestly say I am happier now in September of 2020 than I was before COVID, because it's given me a different perspective on life. I have a very nice home that I was never at. I was never home because I was always on the go. Now I sit in my backyard. I see the boats go by. I see the daylight. And guess what? I think it's actually made me younger.
Beautiful. Zarco, for people that want to work with you and want to contact you, what's the best way to connect with you?
The easiest in our age of technology, it's www.zarcolaw.com, ZARCOLAW.com. Very easy. My office phone number is 305-374-5418. You contact the office, you tell them that you saw this webinar, and I will make sure that I will do my best for me to personally call you back. But we are very busy. We're very high demand. If you don't get called back within an hour, don't be upset. Doesn't mean we don't care. It's just that we are in high demand, but you will be called back typically that same day, if not no later than the next morning. If it's urgent, make sure you say it is urgent, and then somebody will call you that day, whether it be me or one of my partners. But we are here to help. I love what I do. Been doing this for 35 years. Have been rather successful at it. Don't really have to work anymore. But I love it so much that I signed a 20-year lease. Look for the guy who just said I shouldn't get the long-term leases. I signed a 20-year lease a year and a half ago, so I'm good for another 18.
Best in the game. Zarco, looking ahead to the remainder of the year, what are your final thoughts?
Optimism. Optimism. I'm hoping that the election results are consistent with our country being in a great position economically, community-wise, relationships among all, and that together people work together to build a country that is currently and shall remain the most powerful, country in the world, the most prosperous, and the most beneficial to all of its citizens. And I think that if all of us find in ourselves the ability to play out and act responsibly as contributing citizens to our country in all aspects, socially, morally, financially, business, I think that we are going to see a wonderful future for America.
Thank you so much, Zarco. It is always a joy to have you on here, and just tremendous partner of Haute Living, the Haute Lawyer Network, and a true force.
It is my pleasure to assist Haute Living in providing these kind of webinars. Haute has been a fantastic partner of my firm and of others that are, with me as, Haute partners. And you provide a wonderful service for your membership, for your readers, and for those that will watch this, because you are able to put together, as a result of the people that comprise the Haute Living family, people that will be able to speak to specialties and industries and businesses that they have particular knowledge of and have been particularly successful at, for the benefit of all of those that join your Haute Living family. So I congratulate you and Kamal and the other executives of the company for having done such a brilliant job in developing, maintaining, and continuing the success of Haute Living.
Thank you so very much, Zarco. Thank you. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the week, and looking forward to seeing you soon. And thank you for this hour and your expertise and all that you do.
It's my pleasure. You can always count on me.
Thank you, Zarco. Thanks for joining us.